Governor Lew Bertrand, District 5280, he is extremely rare. He is actually a native Californian. There are some, but it's very exciting. He graduated from Loyola in Los Angeles, and his wife Kathy graduated from Marymount before the schools joined together. So Lew is already familiar with the concept of mergers. He spent 39 years in the banking industry, despite being only 35 years old right now. He retired in 2004. Kathy is a retired teacher. Has she retired now?
Yes.
He's been a Rotarian for 28 years in classification and banking management. He's been the president of 2 different clubs. I don't expect him to go for the hat trick, but it's possible. He's chaired the district conference. He's chaired the annual Rotary International Foundation fundraiser. He's been the district treasurer. He's been an assistant governor in lots of different things. And now he is the district governor himself, which is pretty exciting, all things considered. And by next year, he'll have what is unquestionably the single best title in Rotary from what I hear, which is past district governor.
Permanent dinner guest.
Permanent dinner guest. He really has a passion for Rotary's 4-way test, so it's a good thing he was able to lead us in it earlier today. And he has spearheaded our participation, 5280, as one of the pilot districts for the Rotary Ethics Enterprise. He's one of the original directors. He's a Paul Harris Fellow multiple times over. He's received many awards, including District 5280 Rotarian of the Year in 08-09. But without question, his single greatest accomplishment is being the guest speaker today for the Rotary E-Club of the Greater San Fernando Valley. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your district governor, Lew Bertrand.
It's a great pleasure to be here today. International President Tanaka's theme this year is Peace Through Service. Realizing he grew up in Japan, end of World War II, and lived through the destruction that war wrought on that country, we can understand his theme, Peace Through Service. This is what he says about his theme. The concept of peace is one that differs among people and cultures. It may mean personal tranquility, happiness in the family, and a sense of inner contentment. Or it may mean a situation where basic human needs are met. However we define peace, it's a goal that can be achieved through service. In Rotary, service is much more than a sideline or an occasional pursuit. It's a way of life. It's an approach that emphasizes consideration and caring of others and leads to harmony among people. Through embracing service in all aspects of our lives, we foster a spirit of sharing, find goodwill for others, and choose peace. A belief in the power of service lies at the very heart of Rotary. By making service our priority, we put the needs of others above the needs of our own and transform our own perspective. We empathize more deeply with others and with the difficulties of others. We feel a greater drive to reach out, to do what we can to help others live more happily. We become more generous with our time and our resources and open to new ways of thinking. Instead of trying to change others, we recognize that everyone and everything has something to teach us. And every day there are new ways for us to grow. Through service, we become more tolerant of our differences and more grateful to the other people in our lives. Our sense of gratitude drives us to understand others better, to see the good in everyone. Through better understanding, we live in peace. Our Rotary service fosters peace in many ways. In our clubs, in our districts, we work to bring health and safety dignity to communities all around the world. The motto that's unique to Rotary, service above self, describes the highest form of service. It's a path that we all can walk, a path that Rotarians have built, and that path that the whole world can follow. It's a path that leads to greater kindness, contentment, tolerance, and understanding. When we embrace peace through service, we strive for greater peace for ourselves and for our world. I know a number of you have heard of J.T. Waring. He's a member of LA5. A number of years ago, he was approached by a Christian group that wanted to do a water project for an orphanage in Myanmar. Now, all of us remember the country by its previous name, Burma. And in the mid-1960s, the country was taken over by an extremely oppressive totalitarian regime. One of the first things that regime did, they expelled Rotary from the country. Well, there was a need in orphanages for water projects, and the Christian organization wanted to do that. The regime would allow the Christian organization in, but they needed some additional resources, and they knew JT, and he brought himself and a few Rotarians in to help. To date, they have done 24 water projects in Myanmar. The regime, being very oppressive, they have eyes everywhere. They knew JT's affiliation with Rotary. They also knew that he was bringing in a number of Rotarians to work on these projects. But they liked what they were doing. They liked the fact that they were providing water for orphans. When the tsunami hit, JT and his team of Rotarians were in the country, helping the country recover from the tsunami damage. Over the years, JT developed some ties with the government. They were watching. Last year's president, Keelan Banerjee, early in his year as president, asked JT if he could use his contacts to see if they would allow Rotary back into the country. Well, JT reported back that yes, Rotary would be allowed back in the country. They were sure that it was going to happen within 2 to 3 years. Peace through service is changing that country. The regime has softened their stance towards the people, towards Rotary. They allowed to happen a 1-hour presentation on the state-controlled television, a 1-hour special on what Rotary has done for the people of Myanmar. They also did a full newspaper about all of the projects that Rotary has done. I talked to JT a week ago Friday. We sat next together at LA5 when I was there for my official visit. And he told me, and later he told the entire club, that he had heard the previous week from his contacts in Myanmar that before this Rotary year is over, they expect Rotary to be reestablished in Myanmar. If there ever was a case of peace through service, an example of peace through service, where Rotarians doing peaceful service is changing the heart of a government, improving the lot of the entire country, all of the people in the country, I think it's JT and his team of Rotarians, and I think they deserve a round of applause. That is truly exciting news. Ken Boyd, our international director for all of the clubs on the West Coast, has a passion for membership, and he has created the Ignite program, which Mel referred to earlier. program to the International Board of Directors, one of which he is a member of course. And their leadership has decided that every director will have a membership program for their clubs of responsibility. Mel is working with Ken on a zone-wide basis. He's also part of our district membership team, which is headed up by Jerry Brown. Not the Jerry Brown in Sacramento, but the Jerry Brown who's a member of the Southgate Rotary Club. We have a team of 9 people on the team, and all of them are available to come out and discuss the Ignite program. Somehow I suspect that you would like to have Mel talk about that at length sometime. He's shaking his head no.
Oh, they're so sick of hearing me.
I think you do a very credible job, so you'll be fine. To me, membership is very simple. It just comes down to 3 letters of the alphabet. ASK. When I left Security Pacific Bank in 1989, I knew the bank was going to be sold. It was very clear. Within 6 months it was sold to B of A, and I thought it was easier to apply and compete for a new job with 20 people than 20,000. Found a job at Santa Monica Bank in Marina del Rey. Second day on the job, 2 of the local Lions Club members came in and wanted me to go to their Lions Club meeting that Thursday. Their district governor was coming and they wanted to have a full room. And I said I'd be happy to go, but pointed to my Rotary Club pin and I said I'll be joining the Rotary Club here. Well, I did go to that Lions Club meeting at Casa Escobar, met the owner. The governor came in and I waved and I said, "Hi, Eddie," and he said, "Hi, Lou." Turns out Eddie Keys, who owned Lighthouse Electric in San Pedro, had been a customer of mine. I knew all of the people that were with him. And that impressed the Lions. They thought, wow, this new guy must be okay. He knows everybody. Well, as I mentioned, I met Peter Escobar, who owned the restaurant Casa Escobar. He was a customer of mine at Santa Monica Bank. And he was in the bank the following week. We chatted, and I kind of squinted, and I looked at his shirt, and I said, "Peter, I don't see a Lions Club pin." He said, "Oh, I'm not a member." That's Peter. Lions Club meets at your restaurant. He said, "Yes." "How many years have they been meeting at your restaurant?" He said, "I lose track, 20, 25 years, something like that." I responded and I said, "Peter, why aren't you a Lion?" And this is what he did. He put his head down and very quietly said, "They never asked me." 3 weeks later, he's inducted as a Rotarian. He was a Rotarian at the Venice Marina Rotary Club until he closed the restaurant. The lease ran out. He was in his 80s, and he decided it was time to retire, and he moved out of the area, but he rejoined Rotary, where he had moved to. Over the years, I've asked numerous people to join Rotary, and I've had great success with most joining. Not all, but most. Some people haven't, and that happens. But I've also known a lot of people that became Rotarians, but I wasn't the one that asked them. And I wonder, introspectively, how come I never asked them? If you feel somebody is qualified to be a Rotarian, ask. Membership is simply that easy. Ask. I've been a Rotarian for 28, 29 years. And one of the things that I absolutely love about Rotary is the ability to leverage your ideas. Leverage is a banking term. When you want to buy a car, not too many of us ever pay cash for a car. We put a down payment on and we get a bank loan. Well, that's leverage. But with Rotary, you can have an idea. How much can you do yourself with that idea? If you bring it to your Rotary club, look how many people are in the club. what they can do to help you with that particular idea. Many years ago, back in the late 70s, somebody in the Philippines had an idea. Could Rotary help eradicate polio from their village? Now, many of us remember polio. We lived with it, or we know somebody that had it or was affected by it. When I was in the 3rd grade in Westwood, Margaret sat across from me, the next row. And she was absent one day. Now, all of us have children. Most of us have children. Or we remember when we were kids, the kids get sick and they're absent once in a while. So nobody thought of it when she was absent the first day. But the second day when we arrived at school, our teacher was very visibly upset. And she announced that Margaret was in the hospital and they thought that she had polio. But back in the early 50s, polio was rampant throughout the world and the United States. In the spring, summer, or fall, we could go to school, but then we were pretty well isolated. We couldn't go to parties, we couldn't go to the beach. There's so many things that we couldn't do, we couldn't associate with the other children. We were very isolated. And that's because our parents were so afraid of polio. And if they were afraid, we certainly were. They passed that message on to us. So for us in the 3rd grade to hear that one of our classmates had polio was really shocking, troubling. We were very visibly upset ourselves. The next day, the teacher was weeping. And she announced to us that Margaret had died. And I remember that like it was yesterday. She was a very nice girl, gone. Just a few years later, our world's changed. Dr. Salt invented the polio vaccine. And poof, it's like magic. Magic wand. Polio disappeared from the United States, but not so from around the world. So when that person in the Philippines had the idea, could Rotary help in the village, the Rotarians took up the challenge, and they did provide the vaccine. Well, that one person's idea was leveraged by Rotary. It grew, the idea spread, just like your idea for the dance, overseas already. The idea spread. Eventually, within a few years, it reached the visionary directors of Rotary back at Evanston. And they made the decision that really upset a lot of people in the world because they said you could never get it done. Their decision was that Rotary would eradicate polio from the world. And one person's idea was leveraged well beyond their own club. Now Rotary was going to tackle it for the entire world. To get started, the directors, Rotary International, utilized the foundation, the Rotary Foundation. That was the seed money to get it started. Every club in the world got a bill from Rotary. My club at the time got a bill for $20,000. We had never raised that much in any one year, but here was one project we were expected to perform, deliver that money, and we did. That started the campaign throughout the world. In the meantime, over the years, we've had great success. We have partnered with many organizations: United Nations, World Health Organization, UNICEF, the Centers for Disease Control, most governments throughout the world, and more recently, private foundations. We all know about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Remember that they challenged us. They would give us $355 million if over the successive 2.5 years we would raise $200 million. Rotarians would raise $200 million. Well, this last January, 6 months before that 2.5 year deadline was up, I was in San Diego at the International Assembly. John Hugo came out and announced to everybody there that we had raised $207 million 6 months before the deadline. And it was absolute pandemonium in the room. There were probably close to 2,000 people in that assembly room. You should have heard the cheering. Well, the very next speaker, after everybody had calmed down, the very next speaker came out and was a representative of the Gates Foundation and congratulated Rotary on meeting that $200 million challenge and doing it 6 months early. He reached into his pocket, presented John Hugo with a check for another $50 million. Gateses were so thrilled that we had done it and done it 6 months early. Wow. Leverage. People had said we could never get it done when we started. People said you could never get it done in India. Too many people, people were too transient. Everybody was moving. You could never get it done. Well, we've had great success. Last year, 2011, there were just 650 cases of Rotary in the world. We're that close. When we started, back in the 80s, there were an average of 350,000 cases of polio in the world. Be down to 650, what an accomplishment. The people that said it could never be done, wonder what they're saying now. Now I wonder what the people are saying that said we could never get it done in India, because the last case of polio in India was January 13th, 2011. India has been polio-free since that date. As of September 19th of this year, there are only 145 cases of polio in the entire world. We're not that close anymore. We're that close. I think we should give ourselves a round of applause. Who said Rotary couldn't get it done? We are getting it done. It's important that we make sure we get those last few cases so that polio doesn't resurge back. So we have to keep our donations going to the Rotary Foundation. There, the foundation is the lifeblood of Rotary that funds all of the projects all around the world. You know how the foundation works. You donate today, the funds are held for 3 years, and then 100% of that donation goes into the project. I don't know of any other foundation that works that way. See, they invest that money for 3 years, and then the earnings off of that money pay the overhead. If the earnings in good years exceed the expenses of the overhead, the extra money goes into the project. So you may donate $100, and maybe $101 will go into the project. Everything you donate goes into the project. In lousy investment years, like we've experienced in the last decade a couple times, if the earnings don't cover the overhead, Rotary International takes it out of Rotary's operating budget and funds the balance of the overhead. So you're assured 100% of your donation goes into the project. It's a great system. Go into charitynavigator.com. It's an organization that rates all of the major foundations, and they give Rotary the highest rating. The way our system works, it does have one flaw, though. Remember, the funds are held for 3 years, and then they're put into the program? Well, what we're spending this year is what was donated 3 years ago. If we don't continue donating this year, guess what happens in 3 years? There's not going to be money for programs. So it's important to honor Rotary's person's idea in the Philippines, did they ever think their idea could be leveraged by Rotary? Their idea could change the entire world? They were just thinking about their village. And now it's a reality, a close reality to happen for the entire world. Wow, isn't that amazing? We are that close. We can go all around the world to effect change. We can do it right in our own community. If you see a need, create a program with your Rotary Club, and you can effect change for the better. Most of the time, you'll know when you change somebody's life. You know, it's easy to see if you're placing a person into a wheelchair and they're getting mobility. You can see the joy in their face. But what about the child that you're giving a pair of shoes to that they can go to school? Maybe you don't realize how you're changing that child's life, but you will as soon as you see their face when they understand they can go to school and they can learn and their life has changed. Many times you'll know when you're changing a life. Many times you will be totally surprised, but you'll understand when it happens. Everyone in this room has the power to change the world for the better. Be involved. Have fun while you work. And you will change people's lives. You will change the world for the better. I always maintain that if you're having fun, having a good time, laughing with your fellow workers, when you're working on a project, it will seem like you're hardly working. You'll be done before you know it, and you'll be shocked at how easy it ended up being. There's a poem titled Anyway, and it's based on a poem by the same name by Kent Keith. This version is by somebody anonymous, but I think it gives us some excellent guidance. People are unreasonable and self-centered, but love them anyway. Do good for others, and your motives will be suspect, but do good anyway. Give the best you have to give, and people will find fault, but give your best anyway. If you're successful, you will find false friends and true adversaries, but give your best anyway. The good you do today may be forgotten tomorrow, but do good anyway. Dream big dreams. Keep the dream alive. Let me close with a thought from Lew's list of thoughts for the day. This is the unabridged version of everything I need to know about life I learned from Noah's Ark. There are 11 points. The first one, don't miss the boat. Remember that all of us are in the same boat. Plan ahead. It wasn't raining when Noah built the ark. And stay fit. When you're 600 years old, somebody may ask you to do something really big. Don't listen to critics. Just get on with the job that needs to be done. Build your future on high ground. And for safety's sake, travel in pairs. Speed is not always an advantage. The snails were on board with the cheetahs. When you're stressed, just float a while. No matter the storm, there is always a rainbow waiting. And lastly, remember the ark was built by amateurs, and the Titanic by professionals. Thank you.